I was halfway to the podium when the sound hit me, a chair scraping sharply against the floor. It split the moment in two, like time itself had paused. At my own graduation, my sister rose suddenly, eyes blazing, pointing at me as if she were passing judgment on my life. "She cheated her way through college," she yelled. The words hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. Can you imagine the silence that followed? The auditorium froze. Every head turned. Every heart skipped a beat. My parents sat frozen, their faces betraying confusion, disbelief, and something else I couldn't yet name. And there I was, holding 4 years of hard work together with nothing but my breath and determination. I kept walking, each step echoing with a mix of dread and defiance. Growing up, my sister Ariana was the golden one, bright, magnetic, impossible to ignore. I spent my childhood orbiting around her light, learning to make myself small so she could shine. But things changed when I started to step into my own. My grades overtook hers. Teachers noticed me more. Scholarships arrived with my name on them. And with every small victory, the distance between us grew. It all seemed harmless at first, different paths, different timing. But cracks began to appear. Missing scholarship funds. Vague explanations. Emails I never sent. Subtle accusations that left me questioning my own reality. And somewhere in all that chaos, I started to notice a pattern. A whisper of something darker. Have you ever realized that someone you trusted might actually be your biggest threat? That feeling of dread, creeping quietly, knowing something is wrong but not yet seeing the full picture? That's where I was, the night before my life changed forever. Even before graduation day arrived, I felt the tension crawling through the air around me. Small things began piling up, emails that didn't make sense, appointments mysteriously cancelled, subtle comments that hinted someone was quietly reshaping my life. At first, I tried to shrug them off, blaming the chaos of college. But deep down, I couldn't ignore the growing sense that someone I once trusted was orchestrating it all. Can you feel that creeping suspicion, like shadows inching closer without warning? I kept replaying memories of my sister, Ariana, in my head. Once, she braided my hair before school, whispered encouragement when I struggled. I had followed her light my entire childhood, believing she was untouchable, golden, effortlessly in the spotlight. But as I started finding my own way, earning better grades, receiving recognition, feeling capable for the first time, the distance between us widened. I noticed the faint flicker of resentment in her eyes, tiny cracks in her smile that I had never seen before. It began subtly, a misdirected email, a withdrawn scholarship payment, questions from professors that felt like traps. At first, I doubted myself, wondering if I had overlooked something, if I was imagining it. But soon, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Someone had been tracking my life, nudging events just enough to make me question my own reality. And the thought that it could be Ariana, the sister I once loved without question, made my chest tighten with a mix of disbelief and fear. I wasn't alone, though. My roommate, Lena, noticed the change in me before I even spoke. "You've been anxious lately, waiting for something to happen, aren't you?" she whispered one night. I didn't respond. How could I explain that I wasn't waiting for something random? I was waiting for the truth to reveal itself, step by step. Have you ever felt that weight of uncertainty, the kind that presses on you like the quiet before a storm? By the time I discovered the altered scholarship payments and fabricated emails, I realized that this was deliberate. It wasn't luck or coincidence, it was a calculated effort to undermine me. That realization burned slowly, a mix of anger, sorrow, and determination. I couldn't confront her blindly, I needed proof. I reached out to a friend who specialized in digital investigations, hoping to uncover evidence without letting fear or emotion cloud my judgment. Days passed in a blur of analysis and hidden truths. Login timestamps, mirrored email addresses, financial discrepancies, it all pointed to a single, chilling source. My heart sank as the evidence became undeniable. The person who had been quietly sabotaging me, attempting to steal the recognition I had earned, was someone I had once trusted most. I kept breathing, reminding myself that knowing the truth was the first step toward reclaiming control. Driving home that weekend, the early evening sky stretched above me, serene and calm, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside. I spoke with my father cautiously, testing the waters, dropping hints without revealing everything. He paused, a flicker of worry crossing his features. I could sense that he had suspected tension but never imagined the extent. Have you ever carried a secret so heavy that speaking half of it feels like spilling an ocean? That's how it felt, holding back just enough to protect him, yet knowing action was necessary. By the end of that week, the lines were clear. I wasn't imagining it. Every small obstacle, every mysterious interruption, every subtle whisper was part of a bigger plan, one designed to strip away the life I had built for myself. And I decided then, quietly and deliberately, that I would not allow fear to dictate my actions. The next steps would require patience, intelligence, and proof, but most importantly, they would require calm. Because when the time came, the storm would arrive in a way that she could never control. The days leading up to graduation felt surreal, like I was moving through two parallel worlds. On one side, the ordinary life of a student finishing finals, packing up my dorm, practicing my speech in front of the mirror. On the other, a quiet storm was building, a plan forming in shadows, one I could neither ignore nor rush. Every time I checked my accounts or reread suspicious emails, the weight of what had been done pressed harder. Can you feel that sense of tension, when every small detail feels like a clue to something much bigger? I started documenting everything meticulously. Screenshots, timestamps, records of payments, copies of emails that didn't belong to me. Each piece of evidence was a puzzle piece, slowly revealing a disturbing picture. I worked quietly, knowing that revealing too much too soon could backfire. My heart ached with a mix of sorrow and resolve, sorrow for the betrayal, resolve for the justice I intended to claim. My sister Ariana, of course, seemed oblivious to my quiet preparations. Or perhaps she thought I was still the same unassuming girl she had always overshadowed. At family gatherings, she smiled, her charm effortless, radiating the confidence I had once admired. But beneath the surface, I could sense tension, a subtle calculation in her glances, the kind that felt like she was always measuring, always comparing. Have you ever been in a room with someone who knows something about you but you don't yet know how much? That was the air around us. I met with a digital investigator, a quiet professional named Noah, who had the skill to follow the trails I couldn't. We pored over every suspicious transaction, every login anomaly, every strange correspondence. Step by step, the story unfolded. The anomalies traced back to Ariana. Not in a vague, circumstantial way, but through precise, undeniable patterns. My stomach twisted as each revelation confirmed what I had dreaded. The sister I had once loved, the Golden One, had been orchestrating these attacks on my life. Returning to campus each day, I noticed the subtle reactions of people around me. Friends whispered, professors gave me questioning looks, even Lena's eyes betrayed concern. The isolation was palpable, a test of patience and endurance. But each observation, each whispered glance, strengthened my resolve. I couldn't let fear dictate my next move. Patience and evidence would be my weapons. At home, conversations with my father were careful, measured. I didn't reveal everything, only enough to gauge his awareness. His silence spoke volumes. The cracks in family trust were wider than I realized. But in my own mind, clarity was forming. Ariana's actions were intentional, methodical, a pattern too precise to be random. And if I was to protect myself, and my hard-earned achievements, I would need more than intuition, I would need undeniable proof. The night before graduation, I laid out every piece of evidence on my small table. Screenshots, printed emails, transaction logs, all organized meticulously. The weight of the betrayal, the tension, the anticipation, it all converged into a single, quiet determination. I could almost hear the echoes of the coming day, each step toward the podium a heartbeat closer to revealing the truth. Have you ever prepared for a moment that could change everything, knowing that every detail had to be perfect? That was the night before my life shifted. And yet, amid all the planning and tension, there was a strange calm. A calm born from the knowledge that I was no longer reacting blindly. I had the truth. I had a plan. And when the moment came, I would face the storm not as a victim, but as someone in control. Graduation morning arrived with a quiet tension that felt almost physical. The air buzzed with excitement, congratulations, and laughter, but beneath it all, I felt the pulse of the storm I had been preparing for. Every smile, every handshake, every careful step toward the auditorium carried the weight of what was about to unfold. Can you imagine walking into a room knowing that someone there had been plotting against you, but not yet revealing their hand? My sister Ariana appeared calm, composed, radiant as ever, or at least she wanted everyone to believe she was. Her white blazer and perfectly styled hair made her seem untouchable, the golden image of the sister I had once admired. But I could sense the faintest tremor in her posture, a subtle sign that the game she thought she controlled was shifting. My parents arrived, their faces betraying a mixture of pride and tension. The world moved on around us, unaware of the quiet war about to be revealed. I took my seat among the graduates, heart steady, mind clear. Each moment was deliberate. The applause swelled, the dean began his address, and I felt a strange serenity amidst the chaos. I had prepared for this. The evidence I had collected, the proof of manipulation, theft, and deception, was tucked safely where only I could access it. Every step, every breath, carried the knowledge that I was no longer powerless. Then it happened. The familiar scrape of a chair, sharp and deliberate. Ariana's voice rang out, accusing, loud, clear. She cheated. She manipulated the system. Gasps rippled through the room. Phones lifted. Eyes widened. And yet, inside me, there was no panic, only purpose. Have you ever felt that moment when the world pauses, and you know that your actions in the next few seconds will change everything? I stood, walking with measured steps toward the podium, each click of my heels a heartbeat of defiance. The audience was captivated, but my focus was singular. I had the proof, I had the plan, and I would not let her dictate the narrative. The dean nodded subtly as I approached, a silent acknowledgement that everything was ready. In that quiet nod, I felt the balance of power shift. When I reached the stage, I positioned myself carefully. Beneath my gown, the envelope of evidence waited, labeled, precise, a quiet declaration that truth would prevail. Ariana's performance faltered as she realized the tide was turning. Her accusations, once sharp and confident, now seemed hollow, exposed. The whispers that had haunted me were replaced by a ripple of recognition. People were beginning to see the truth. Security moved discreetly, guiding Ariana gently toward the aisle, her composure unraveling. The once golden sister, poised and untouchable, began to crumble under the weight of her own choices. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Silence and strategy had replaced panic and reaction. Sometimes, the most powerful moment is the one you create quietly, methodically, without drama. Backstage, the dean handed me the sealed envelope. Evidence in hand, I felt a profound sense of closure. The investigation that would follow was inevitable, and justice, calm and deliberate, would take its course. I stepped into the sunlight outside the auditorium, and for the first time in months, I breathed freely. The storm had arrived, but it was no longer mine to fear. The auditorium emptied slowly, whispers fading into the distance, leaving behind a quiet stillness that felt almost sacred. Ariana's outburst had dissolved into an echo, her control stripped away by her own actions. I stood backstage, watching the sunlight filter through the doors, feeling a calm I hadn't known for months. The evidence I carried had shifted the balance, not with anger, not with confrontation, but with patience, proof, and quiet resolve. Can you imagine the relief of reclaiming your life in silence, knowing that the truth has already done the work for you? The next days moved quickly. The academic board reviewed the evidence, every log, screenshot, and financial record laying bare Ariana's calculated attempts to undermine me. Professors and administrators came forward, corroborating what I had gathered. Each confirmation was a small victory, a step toward justice, and a reminder that integrity, not spectacle, holds ultimate power. My parents struggled to reconcile the sister they thought they knew with the actions revealed before them. Shock, denial, and eventually a quiet acceptance settled into their expressions. And yet, I felt no triumph over them, no need for revenge. What mattered was reclaiming my life, stepping out of the shadows that had been cast over it. Each step forward was mine alone, deliberate and unshaken. I moved into a small apartment in Corvallis, sunlight pouring through the windows each morning, a second-hand table in the center of the room, and the soft purring of a cat who immediately claimed every chair. Life felt simple again, yet richer for the lessons of patience, awareness, and courage. I rebuilt my days around calm, focus, and the small joys that fear had once eclipsed. Have you ever experienced a quiet freedom that comes only after enduring chaos? That was the peace I discovered. Looking back, I realized that this story isn't about victory over someone else, it's about stepping into your own power, even when the people you trust the most betray you. Ariana's choices shaped moments of pain, but they didn't shape my future. I built that future piece by piece, proof in hand, patience in my heart, and a refusal to shrink ever again. And now, I share this story with you, not for applause, not for pity, but to remind anyone who has faced hidden betrayal, you are not alone. You can reclaim your narrative. You can rise above the chaos others try to create. If you've ever had to fight quietly, to plan carefully, to protect yourself from someone you once loved, I hope this story gives you courage. If you felt this journey with me, make sure to like this video, leave a comment sharing your story, and subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience, family drama, and redemption. Your voice matters, and your story deserves to be heard.